Good morning. I saw some interesting conversation happening in a Winthrop Facebook group yesterday, so I wanted to come on here and talk about it. I am streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Rumble. I'm on both of my Facebook accounts and both of my Twitter accounts. So if you're watching, please like the video, share the video, comment. The views on my video are up, but the interaction is not. So people are watching and not commenting, which is funny because I think people are hate watching me. But that's fine because the point of making videos is to get information out and create public awareness. And if people who don't like me or people who typically don't follow the things that I do or care for the things that I do are watching my videos, that's great because that you didn't know about before. So my name is Catherine Vitale. If you don't already follow me, I am an activist and a homeschooling mom. And last year I was a candidate for Boston City Council at Large, and hopefully next year I'll be a candidate again for Boston City Council at Large. And I am from Boston, born and raised in Dorchester, and I randomly make live stream videos on here to talk about any issues that arise in Boston or any parts of Massachusetts, really. And then when I'm out in public doing any type of demonstration or direct action, speaking with a public official or whatever, I stream live from Facebook only. So when I'm streaming live sitting at my desk, I'm on all my platforms. And when I am out in public, I'm streaming on Facebook only. So if you're watching me from any other platform, please make sure that you follow my Facebook account, Catherine Vitale, and turn on notifications for when I go live because, as you can probably guess, I'm heavily shadow banned. So my videos might do better than I know that they do, or they don't do good because I tell the truth and the internet doesn't like the truth. So anyway, like I was saying, I saw some information on a Winthrop Facebook group yesterday, and that prompted me to come on here today to talk about it. So, the title of this video, Lydia Edwards sends a big FU to Winthrop voters. I'm going to share my screen to show the back and forth emails in a minute. But essentially, the topic is the Massachusetts MBTA Communities Act. So if this hasn't come to your town or a town near you, then you might not know about it yet. A lot of people were just hearing about it for the first time when Milton took a vote on it back in February. So I'm going to share the screen on the MBTA Communities Act first before I go to the Winthrop situation. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so yeah. So the MBTA Communities Act requires that an MBTA community shall have at least one zoning district of reasonable size in which multifamily housing is permitted as of right and meets other criteria set forth in the statute. Minimum gross density of 15 units per acre, located not more than 0.5 miles from a commuter rail station, subway station, ferry terminal, or bus station. No age restrictions, and suitable for families with children. On December 15th, 2021, the Department of Housing and Community Development, which is now the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, issued draft guidelines on how to comply with the law. After the release of the draft guidelines, the Baker-Polito administration held a public comment period until March 31st, 2022. During the public comment period, there were over 24 engagement sessions, and the DHCD received nearly 400 comments through an online portal. The public comment process served to inform the revised guidelines. On August 10th, 2022, DHCD issued a final guidelines to determine if an MBTA community is in compliance with Section 3A. Read the letter sent to each MBTA community from Secretary Mike Keneally and Undersecretary Jennifer Maddox. We encourage you to visit this page often, as it will be updated from time to time. My first thought is, what about the people who are not on the internet? Like, how do they find out about this stuff, right? Let me see. Let me make sure. Okay. Okay, so dated August 10th, 2022 from the Baker-Polito administration. Dear local officials and MBTA communities, today we are excited to share with you the final guidelines to determine compliance with Section 3A of the Zoning Act. The new requirement for every MBTA community to have at least one zoning district in which multifamily housing is allowed as of right and which is located near a transit station if applicable. On December 2021, the Baker-Polito administration released draft guidelines, blah, blah, blah. I just read all of that. So the final guidelines incorporate several changes, including revised community categories. MBTA communities are now categorized as rapid transit, commuter rail, adjacent, or adjacent small town. The bus service category has been eliminated. So an MBTA community basically is every community, essentially, right? Because it says adjacent or adjacent small town. So even if your town does not actually have the MBTA, but you are adjacent to a town that does, then it applies. Trickery with the wording, which is how they do. Confusing language, per usual. Significant adjustments for small and rural towns with no transit stations. The final guidelines eliminate the minimum land area requirement and reduce the multifamily unit capacity requirement for communities with a population of less than 7,000 or less than 500 residents per square mile. Changes to the reasonable size criteria. The guidelines establish circuit breakers that prevent multifamily unit capacity from exceeding 25% of a community's existing housing stock, or the minimum land from exceeding 1.5% of its total developable land area. Tailored district location requirements. The portion of a multifamily zoning district that must be located within a half mile of a transit station now varies based on the amount of developable station area within each MBTA community. Communities with more developable station area land will be required to have more of their multifamily districts within half a mile of transit stations. A community with less than 100 developable, why this word, acres within a half mile of a station will be free to choose any appropriate location. Multifamily unit capacity tool. To help communities calculate multifamily unit capacity in a consistent, transparent, and data-driven way, we built a compliance model workbook tool. The compliance model will provide a GIS land map for each municipality and calculate a zoning district's multifamily unit capacity and gross density based on inputs provided by each community. This tool will be widely available for use in the fall. The final guidelines also include refinements and adjustments in other key areas such as affordability, local site plan review, and other technical matters, including updated definitions. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I'm going to pause there with the screen for a minute. So basically, what that says is we've come up with these numbers not based on any like anything that makes sense, really. We've come up with these numbers based on how we can manipulate the data to justify what we're doing here, right? So I guarantee you, if you look up keywords in these plans, essentially any other town or state or whatever, you will find a very similar plan. Okay, this is not unique. This is not your representatives your local representatives that you put into office that worked on this plan, that came up with a plan that's best for your community. That's not what happened. This is, again, a part of Agenda 21, the global agenda, the New World Order, if you will, to convert us all into 15-minute cities. So essentially, a 15-minute city is when everything you could ever possibly need in life is within 15 minutes of your home. Therefore, you don't need a car, because one of the major goals of the New World Order is to eliminate privately owned vehicles. That way, streets will be clear for the elitists who are allowed to have their own vehicles or are chauffeured around in their own vehicles, and emergency vehicles, right? Only the government, pretty much. Only the government and the very, very rich people, who essentially are also the government, will be able to have vehicles. So the roads will be nice and clear for them. Okay, they don't have to be bothered by the traffic of us peasants. So when you think about everything that you could ever possibly need in life being within 15 minutes of your home, that sounds very convenient to a lot of people, right? It sounds nice, maybe, almost, if you're somebody that, thinks about how much money you spend on gas or how much money you spend on your car. You might like the idea that you can walk everywhere or ride a bike everywhere, right? It's trading convenience for freedom is what it is, because trading freedom for convenience, essentially, because now you can't go on your, like, if you're somebody like me who lives in Boston, you're not going on your summer trip to the Cape or to New Hampshire or to Maine on your own. Maybe you'll take a train there, which is uncomfortable for most people. You gotta carry around your luggage, and you are essentially alerting the government, here are my plans. This is exactly what I plan on doing and where I plan on going. Feel free to surveil me as you will. And, I'll let you know ahead of time everything that I plan on doing and where I plan on being and going, the food I plan on eating, the places I plan on visiting, all of that, right? And then, we see the buildings that they're putting up. It all subscribes to this 15-minute city Agenda 21 plan, where the buildings have hundreds, some of them even thousands of units in them, tiny units, luxury units, right? Where you have your laundry in the unit, you have a gym in the building, you have a function room, you have downstairs, you have retail stores, your grocery store, probably maybe a doctor's office, a dentist's office. You have your park at the corner, which, as you've seen, so many parks have been renovated quite recently to add in their surveillance equipment that they have on the parks and playgrounds. And, there's splash pads being added into every park now, so that you don't have to leave your 15-minute city if you don't live near a beach or a public pool. They're renovating all of the public pools to add their surveillance equipment, right? And essentially they're adding, parking meters and like all types of restrictions around beaches where you actually have to register to go spend some time at the beach. Okay. This is not freedom. We are not free. Um, I am glad that I'm seeing pushback from Milton, at least, maybe Winthrop, about the MBTA Communities Act. I don't know who else is pushing back because we don't hear it, right? This is the same issue that I'm having in Boston. We have in the whole state, essentially the whole country. But Massachusetts is kind of like our own little world here because the rest of the country has written us off as useless and never getting better, right? We don't communicate with each other. When we're having one issue, such as the MBTA Communities Act, in one location, we're not communicating with the last location that had the same issue, right? So divide and conquer is what the government does to us, right? They do the same plan over and over and over again in every different location at a different time discreetly so that we don't communicate across neighborhoods, across municipalities, and team up together to fight together, right? So back in Milton, what we saw was, so with this plan, essentially what I see is the general plan that's happening all over the country, all over the world, really, to continue to implement the 15-minute cities. We start with the bike lanes and the bus lanes and the medians and the extended raised curbs for the self-driving cars and the parking meters. And now we have the MBTA communities, which Boston apparently is exempt from this act. So, I mean, exempt because we already are, like almost every single area of Boston already fits the criteria for this this act. So we are exempt from it, but pretty much we already are it. So I don't really understand that. But yeah, so then I see also in the letter that it says the compliance model will provide a GIS land map for each municipality and calculate a zoning district's multifamily unit capacity and gross density based on inputs provided by each community. Every time the government is about to overstep or the government is in the process of overstepping, they will put on a show for us first, right? They'll say, we need community input. We are following the process of involving the community in the action that we are taking, right? They have public hearings, they have public meetings, they present themselves in your local neighborhood association meetings, in your local civic association meetings, whatever you call the meetings that you and the people in your community go to, and they come with PowerPoint presentations and posters and all kinds of things to sell this idea to you. Just, based on the premise as if they come with a friendly face and tell you a whole bunch of great things about it that make you think that this is an opportunity. They sell it to you as an opportunity for your community. Then you feel involved in the process and it's less work for them to have to put up a fight with you or to have to listen to the annoying little peasants when we start complaining about things being done without our input. They give us input and then, typically the majority of us say, we tried and it didn't work. We need to be more on top of shit next time. Basically, that's what happens, right? So no matter what the meeting is for, no matter what the hearing is for, I feel like this may be confusing for people sometimes when I say it. Maybe I'm not that great at making things clear, explaining things. But all of these meetings and hearings are for show. The people have absolutely nothing to do with anything the government is doing at this point. I am not sure when is the last time that the people had anything to do with anything that the government is doing. Okay. So any organization that you're involved in, any group that you're involved in, and you guys have your meetings and you talk about how you're fighting one issue over here and another issue over there, it's all for show. You have no say in anything that your government is doing. Okay? Like you need to understand that. Everything is for show. Now, having that been said, that doesn't mean that we should all just throw our hands in the air and not show up at these meetings and not give testimony in recorded public hearings, okay? Because it is very important. It needs to be on the record everywhere that there was never any question how we felt about what they were doing to us, okay? You need to be on video giving that testimony at the city hall hearing. You need to be on video disrupting that city council meeting. You need to be taking video when you go to your neighborhood association meetings and start calling out their bullshit, okay? Because there's a lot of people in place that run neighborhood associations and different organizations all over everywhere. Those people are getting some type of perk one way or another to lead you into submission, whether they know it or not. And my guess is that 90% of the time they don't know that they're leading you into submission. They just think that they're, being like the middleman kind of between the government and you and helping you fight in a more organized way. But the fight isn't going to happen through these nonprofit organizations and civic organizations and associations and all of that. The fight is going to happen when we, the people, as individuals, realize that the way that our Constitution was founded and the way that freedom was founded in this country was the idea of individual liberty and not mob rule. Until people understand that, we're probably not going to get very far. And the entire economy and world might collapse in the meantime. But that's the most important thing, is that we know that according to our Constitution, we are supposed to have individual liberty, and we are not meant to be led by groups and cults or organizations or even churches. We are meant to act accordingly. If we all stopped looking for somebody to fight for us and lead us, then we might actually get up and do something, right? So that's what I see in this letter and in this Communities Act, is the same thing that we see about every other issue, is that the government says, hey, we're letting you know that we're going to do this so that you think that we give you a heads up. We're going to have some meetings and we're going to talk about it. Mostly they're going to be virtual so that we can moot and boot and block and cut you off when you're speaking and violate public meeting law and blah, 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 blah. And we'll smile in your face and nod. And then, we might come in with astronomical numbers and let you say your piece. And then we're going to bring our numbers down a little bit to look like we're compromising with what the community wants. It's all for show. In the end, they do what they want. They get what they want. And it's not going to stop until we acknowledge it and act accordingly. So, what's going on in Winthrop? I'm going to share my screen again. While I'm doing that, I will say that I was in Milton on that election day when Milton took the vote about the Communities Act, And I talked to people that were outside holding signs that were against the Communities Act. I talked to Republicans, I talked to Democrats, I talked to Libertarians, and I talked to people who are registered unenrolled. And all of them felt the same way about the Communities Act. And that's why Milton voted no. It's not because one party's vote dominated another. It's because the people as a whole don't want this. Just like the illegal immigrants invading our cities and towns. The people as a whole don't want this. It's not one party or another. It's the people. Excuse me. So, so this is a letter from a Winthrop resident to Senator Lydia Edwards. Lydia Edwards used to be a Boston City Councilor for District 1, which is Charlestown, East Boston, the North End. And she became a senator in 2022. And she is the senator for parts of Boston, I want to say Revere and Winthrop. And there might be somewhere else in there too. I just don't know off the top of my head. I can look it up in a minute. Okay, so dear Senator Edwards, this is from April 13th. I hope this email finds you well. I am a member of the Winthrop Says No to 3A committee. We look forward to meeting with you to discuss important matters concerning our community around the MBTA Communities Act. I am writing to confirm our meeting scheduled for Saturday, April 27th at 10:30 a.m. We are eager to engage in a constructive dialogue with you and address various concerns and questions we have. In the spirit of transparency and community engagement, we plan to invite Winthrop Community Access Television, WCAT, to record our meeting. By doing so, we aim to ensure that our community members have access to conversation and insights shared during our discussion. Furthermore, we kindly request that you allocate some time during the meeting to address additional questions that our residents have shared with us. This will allow for a more comprehensive exchange of ideas and concerns. So hold on one second. Sorry. Just one second. So, please let us know if there are any additional details or preparations needed from our end. They got a response back on April 16th. So that's 3 days. Good afternoon. This is from Lydia Edwards. I agree with your spirit of transparency and community engagement. To be clear, Cheryl initially reached out to me through a mutual friend to set up a small in-person conversation with no more than 10 to 12 people. I agreed. That meeting was scheduled for April 27th at 10:30 a.m. I had envisioned a small gathering over coffee and me listening to people's concerns about the MBTA Communities Law. Your email asking that WCAT attend that the meeting and that I address additional questions beyond MBTA Communities Law has changed the nature of the meeting. I think for the better. Therefore, I will have an open dialogue with interpretation. I want to ensure people who don't speak English can participate on May 6th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. This is an evening time, but I think it will be easier for people to attend, and I expect a larger crowd. I just want to stop and say, like, how nice, thoughtful, and considerate of this elected official who's making about $75,000 a year of your tax dollars to offer her hour and a half to hear from the people who employ her. How considerate of her. This conversation will start with the MBTA communities and then we'll transition to other topics. So, hold on. Not only is she expanding the nature of the meeting by opening it up to more people, changing the date, having interpretation, and completely changing everything about the meeting, but now she's also adding other topics to the conversation. So, as if an hour and a half were enough time to learn from the community how they feel about the MBTA's Communities Act, the MBTA Communities Act, she's also going to talk about other topics too in that hour and a half. To assure that this is a well-attended meeting, I will announce the meeting on social media and in the transcript. People then can RSVP. While RSVPing, they can submit their questions. This will help me prepare. I don't want to be caught off guard, and I would like to provide as thorough an answer as possible. This will also give people an opportunity to select a language if they need interpretation. We will be sure to send out the Zoom link well in advance. We will limit participation to those that RSVP. Thank you again for the great idea. Like, this is like fucking gaslighting 101. Consider the April 27th in-person meeting transitioned, not canceled, to an inclusive community forum. Please RSVP here with the link. Respectfully, Lydia. So let's pause there. So, okay. Hey, Senator, hey, it's us, the people that we put you in office and you represent us. We want to have a meeting with you because we're unhappy about something that's going on in our community and we really want to talk about it. We have a lot of questions about this specific issue. And we would like to have record of this conversation that we're having with you. So we'd like the local news or broadcast people to be there, and then no, you know what, guys, I'm gonna this is gonna be great for us. Okay, we are gonna have a virtual meeting. You are gonna tell me who you are, where you live, and probably give me your email address and your phone number in order to RSVP for this thing. So I'm gonna know well in advance who plans on showing up, how I will need to combat those people. You need to submit your questions in advance if you want me to consider answering them. So, don't you dare have new questions that arise during the conversation because I won't take those. I'm only going to take the questions that you send in advance so that I can perfectly craft my answers to gaslight the fuck out of you. And, don't consider this like an FU because I changed the time, location, nature, and conversation of the meeting that you asked for. Consider this an all-inclusive, perfect transition to something way better. Something where I can sit behind a screen. I don't actually have to listen to you if I don't want to because I can mute you or kick you out of the meeting or not let you in at all if you didn't register beforehand to tell me who you were, how I can contact you, where you live, and what your question is. And this is going to be great. Thank you so much for giving me this idea to change this in-person meeting to a virtual meeting so that now I have complete control over everything everybody says and does. And if I don't like you or you disagree with me, I don't have to let you speak. Respectfully, Lydia. So, this is what they do. And this is what I've talked about repeatedly on many live streams that I've done and what I will continue to talk about. And it is actually a little, I don't know if discouraging is the word that I want to use, but it's disheartening when I don't see people talking about this problem. The virtual meetings need to stop. People need to put their foot down. Like, I don't know what is going on in the world where people think that, like, we're in 2024 and we are like past or like we have no control over what our government does, or they act like the government is the boss of the people. No, they work for us. Stop the virtual meetings. Okay, maybe you didn't realize in 2020 that it was like a crazy civil rights violation, public meeting law violations for them to do these virtual meetings, but we're in 2024 now. When you know better, you do better. Like, the people that don't want to admit they were wrong about the pandemic, okay, fine. People that don't want to admit they're wrong about the masks and about the vax, okay, fine. But, like, come on. The virtual meetings need to stop. Okay? When you're in a virtual meeting, they can mute you. They can't do that in person. They can kick you out. They can't do that in person as easily as they can do it in a Zoom. Okay? They can't mute you. Okay, so even if they are having you removed because you're causing a disruption to the meeting, you still have the ability to be heard by the people in the room. Not on Zoom. They can mute you. Okay, they can mute you with one click. You don't have the ability to be heard by the people in the room. They disable the chat. Okay, and they put it on a mode where you can't see the other people that are in attendance. So for all you know, you could be attending a meeting with 1,000 people from your community that feel the same exact way that you do, but you have no ability to see who's there. If you were in person, you'd be able to see everybody that's there and hear everybody that's there because they can't mute you in real life. These virtual meetings are dangerous, and they will be the elimination of freedom, the elimination of the public having anything to do with what the government does. Like, we are not free. Okay? And there's many people that laugh at me when people in Boston, I need to be specific about that want to laugh at me when I say that, like, oh, like I'm late to the conversation. Like, we haven't been free this whole time. We were never free. Like, you're just now realizing this. Okay, well, what are you doing about it? Because it's like I just said, when you know better, you do better. Now that I know, I'm trying to do something about it. I ran for office last year. I'm running for office next year. I've been an activist. I've done tons of direct action and demonstrations all over the state. I've been arrested 3 times. Not that that's something to brag about, but those arrests were unlawful. Okay? And the reason why they happened were to silence me because I am effective. What are you doing? If you're laughing in my face and telling me that, I'm late to the conversation, or where was I back in 2018 when this was happening? Well, I didn't know then, and I know now. Let's go. What are you doing? If you've known for this long, why didn't you educate me? Where were you when you found out? It doesn't matter who found out when, or who knew what when, or for how long you've known. Look, to fucking do something. I have a newsletter going all around Boston, a bi-weekly newsletter. I just started a website 2 weeks ago. I'm trying to do whatever I can, whatever I have the means to do with, the small handful of people that are trying to help. And I'm trying to educate the people of Boston and inform the people of Boston. Why aren't you doing this in your neighborhood or in your city or town? Don't get mad at me because you don't like the way that I do things when you're sitting there doing nothing. Virtual meetings are fucking dangerous, and they need to be stopped. This is like the key essential way to get the public out of the government. Okay? Before you know it, within the next year or so, it will be true that the public cannot go into public buildings. I just did a live stream last week talking about 3 incidents that have happened in the past 3 weeks at Boston City Hall. One incident where a lawyer and a YouTuber, First Amendment auditor, whatever, went into City Hall and they were questioned by a City Hall employee whether they had permission to be there in the hallway of City Hall. Okay. And then you have a man go there to try to give a testimony at a public hearing that coincidentally, mysteriously got canceled right after I talked about it on the internet. Less than 24 hours before the scheduled hearing. He goes to give a testimony at the hearing. And because he asked questions to City Hall employees, he gets approached by the police, beat up by the police, arrested, and now he's in a psych ward for 20 days. Okay. And then a week later, Joe DePina goes down there to try to ask about a public records request that he put in October. And without any incident happening, he also gets bombarded by a whole bunch of police. You're not allowed to go to Boston City Hall and ask questions. Okay? You're not even allowed to schedule a meeting at this point with your representatives because they're going to turn it into an online forum where they want you to send in your questions ahead of time. And if they don't like your question, they're not going to answer it. And if you speak or you disrupt the meeting, they're going to mute you and kick you out, which is something that they wouldn't be able to do in real life. Stop accepting the unacceptable. Stop accepting these virtual meetings. Just stop. How can you just stop meetings and disrupt them and get kicked out and get back in? Go down to their offices, make a scene, video it. Who knows? I don't know. Try to have a conversation with them in person and see what happens. Because I guarantee you they're not going to talk to you, or they're going to say a quick couple words and walk away from you. They are your employees. They work for you. Okay. And there's no such thing here in Boston or in most of Massachusetts as just vote them out. When the other option, because this is majority Democratic elected official state, right? So, we should typically, in most other states, you would have Republicans running for office to balance it out, because I don't subscribe to either party. It's all bullshit. It's an illusion of two different sides. However, if you have one extreme and the other, then at least it's a balancing effect, right? We don't have any of that. We're all completely left, and the GOP is over there on the left too. They don't run people in places where they don't think that they can win, which is almost nowhere in Massachusetts. So, I would be surprised if any Republicans even step foot into Boston, because they don't bother, because they think they can't win here, and they don't bother making any effort at all whatsoever. So, there's no such thing as vote them out. Okay. The people on the internet that love to say you get what you vote for, keep voting in the Democrats, and it's just going to keep getting worse, blah, blah, blah. There's nobody else to vote for, guys. There's nobody else to vote for. Okay. I put myself up there. Sean put himself up there. There are other people who have run for office, wanting to help, wanting to try to save their neighborhoods or their cities or towns or whatever. And we just don't get the help, the funding, or the backing that the other people do. So, for whatever reason, people want to support the people with the big bank accounts. That makes any sense whatsoever. When I vote, I'm actually looking at the people who have the smallest bank accounts, because why do I want a wealthy person ruling over me? Why do I want somebody who has random donations from all across the country representing me? Why do I want somebody that is a literal carpetbagger who came here from somewhere else just to run for office representing me? I don't. And you shouldn't either. But for some reason, you keep these people in office. Even Republicans and conservatives in Boston keep people like Ed Flynn, Erin Murphy, and Nick Collins and Stephen Lynch in office because they think that they're their friends. They are helping to destroy everything that we know, everything that we grew up with, our entire city. They're helping to destroy it. And we just keep these people in office because we have some type of invisible loyalty to them, or they're part of the family or whatever. I don't know. But we need to stop. We need to stop accepting the unacceptable. So anyway, back to Winthrop. So yeah, so she's gaslighting them. Lydia Edwards is gaslighting the people of Winthrop. They asked her for a meeting. She agreed to the meeting. When they asked for the meeting to be recorded and, for basically to put it on record, she completely switched the whole thing and is now doing it virtual. And not only is it virtual, but you have to RSVP, you have to register in order to attend, and you have to submit your question in advance in order to have it answered. So I'm going to go back to the email thing. So that was April 16th when she wrote back to them. April 17th. Hi, Senator Edwards. Thank you for the response. I'm writing to provide some clarification regarding our previous discussion concerning the scheduled meeting on the 27th. There won't be any major changes to the format. You'll still have the opportunity to meet with 10 to 12 individuals as initially requested. The only modification is that we plan to record the meeting to ensure that the broader community can access the discussion. Additionally, as planned, this meeting will only be focused on the MBTA Communities Act as per your request. Due to the participant limit, we've received numerous inquiries from residents specifically related to the MBTA Communities Act. We believe that recording the session would provide you with a valuable opportunity to address their questions in the intimate setting you had outlined during your WCAP broadcast. We are not in agreement with transitioning our meeting to May 6th. We are eager to meet with you on April 27th as planned. Looking forward to your response. She responded 2 days later. Notice how it's been 3 days between and 2 days between every time she responds, right? Hi all. I've attached the flyer and the link to RSVP for the community conversation. This will be a multilingual evening conversation on several topics, including the MBTA Communities Law. Very excited, and I am grateful to Vasily that's the person who was sending the emails, for inspiring a transparent, filmed, recorded conversation. I expect this will be one of the largest community conversations I have ever hosted. You can RSVP at the link below this email or call my office, which is 617-722-1634. Her email is lydia.edwards@masenate.gov, and her phone number is 617-722-1634. People have been excitedly signing up, and we sent the announcement to the Winthrop Transcript. We also have a Facebook event if people want to sign up there. April 19th, the person responds, we acknowledge receipt of your email regarding May 6th event. We would like to emphasize that there was no agreement to transition our meeting from April 27th to May 6th. You made this decision. What is the rationale for no longer wanting to meet in person with our group? Why is that? As our elected official, you're the sole individual who hasn't engaged in an in-person meeting with their constituents concerning 3A. The May 6th Zoom event will now be structured as a controlled conversation wherein questions must be submitted beforehand and your responses will be scripted. It's worth noting that the format has been altered to encompass additional subjects under a guise of a community forum, consequently restricting the emphasis solely to the MBTA's Community Act. Once again, this is not what we agreed on. Consider your declined offer to meet with our group in person and your preference to confine your other in-person gatherings in Winthrop to small, controlled settings, as articulated in your WCAT interview. I'd like to propose that the Winthrop Town Council host a town-wide community forum. In this forum, they would extend a personal invitation to both you and Representative Turco to address questions both for and against 3A. This format mirrors the in-person coffee hour events that you have recently hosted in East Boston and Revere. Relying solely on Zoom excludes senior citizens and individuals without technology access. Implementing a hybrid model with both in-person and Zoom options would ensure inclusivity across all demographics. This format would truly represent what a community forum should entail. I look forward to hearing from Council President Lettieri, Representative Charco, and yourself regarding your willingness to participate in an in-person community forum. and that's it. Um, because that email was sent yesterday, so I'm sure they won't hear back from her until at least Monday. So Lydia Edwards, the senator, I don't even understand how she got elected to that position at the point that she did. She definitely voted in favor of passing the Mayor Wu self-serving ordinance to ban people from protest, to ban us specifically, our small group of protesters, from protesting in front of her house. Lydia Edwards hates free speech. Lydia Edwards is against the First Amendment. Okay? Lydia Edwards does not want you to exercise your freedom. She does not want you to be free. She wants to rule over you. She enjoys it. Like, look at how much enjoyment you can see through her gaslighting emails. She's loving this. Okay. Um, she's like, thank you, Vasily. Like, as in like almost putting the spotlight on this person for being the one to mess it up. Right. So if somebody gets mad that the meeting was transitioned, maybe they might get mad at this person for giving her a heads up that they were going to invite WCAT. So it's like gaslighting. It's like victim shaming, victim blaming. I don't even know like the buzzwords that to go along with this, but oh, that's why Lydia Edwards ran uncontested. That's why, because nobody runs against these people, and I mean, we are in the presidential election year, so this is the year that the majority of people actually participate in voting. But what people don't understand is that we just had 3 entire years, well, I mean 4, because this year too there's not a lot of people running, and it's like we've been complaining since 2020, right? And what have we done? And I mean we as a people, because I, like, as an individual, have actually done a lot, but it's not about me. Like, I'm one person, and the people that I work with are also like a very small group of individuals. Like, there's only so much we can do. We need help. SOS. We haven't done much as a people over the past 4 years. Okay. Like I was saying a couple months ago, I have never known about the Republican State Committee or who they are, or who to reach out to. Like I said, I don't subscribe to a party, but I think that we need to lean toward Republicans to get some type of balance, right? So I've never known who the state committee people are here. Okay. And as the only conservative candidates for Boston City Council last year, I think that those Republican state committee people should have approached me and Sean, and should have asked to work with us, or asked how they could help, or how we could help, or tried to get us to register as Republican. Anything. They've done nothing. I don't know who these people are. I've never met them. I've never seen them. Okay. And I didn't even hear about the Republican state committee um, being an election until like November, December, when the election was in March, and people knew, hey, forever. It's a 4-year term, the state committee people. So, like, why the people who are in office, the people who are in Republican town committees, Republican city committees, the people who have been active for a long time, where have you been? Why are you not educating people? Why are you not recruiting? What are you doing? This might hurt the viewership here, but I have to go away for 2 seconds. I will be right back. It did not hurt the viewership at all. So I don't know where you guys are. I don't know why you haven't been putting in any work for the past 4 years. I'm new here. Okay, I just stepped into this world in 2020, really 2021. All I did in 2020 really was work on one campaign, and I learned a lot from that. But I really started putting in the work in 2021. So I've been doing this for 3 years, and I've done a lot. Okay, especially considering my personal life situation and the means that I have and the lack of means that I have. And nobody is doing anything. Everybody complains online. So many people show up to social events. Like, it makes me want to cry. Okay. People will show up for a social event at any point, but people won't show up for a public demonstration. People won't show up to support people in court unless they're famous. Apparently, people won't show up for the things that matter, but people will show up to socialize. People will literally build like a cult around a high profile murder case, but won't show up for other free speech cases. Which, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of people in the Free Karen Read movement that don't even know about our cases or don't even know about anything that we've done. So, I mean, if they don't know about it, then that's one thing. But there are people who do know and who have, said over and over that they would help and that they would join or that they would support or whatever, because they see the things that we do and they appreciate the things that we do, and then they're nowhere to be found. But when there's a fucking hearing in Dedham, there they are with their Free Karen Read shirt on. But I digress, kind of, because these things are only happening because nobody's doing anything about it. And the very small handful of people that are doing something about it are being arrested, are being silenced, are being censored, are being beat up by police, are being villainized by police and media, are being smeared in the media. And it's just going to keep getting worse. It's going to keep getting worse and worse and worse until we are in our 15-minute cities without vehicles. And as they say, we will own nothing and we will be happy. So there is also one other thing that I wanted to share about this Winthrop situation. Kind of, or about the MBTA's Communities Act situation. Let me change my screen. So this is the website of a local group. It's like, I want to say the name, but I don't, but it might show on my screen anyway. The reason why I wouldn't want to say the name is because I wouldn't want them to also get shut down or shadow banned or whatever, but I'm going to read from here. So hopefully it doesn't have any effect on it. So it says there are 177 towns in Massachusetts that are going to be forever impacted by this dictate if it is not stopped. And for the record, if you didn't already know, there are 351 municipalities in Massachusetts. So to give you a better idea of what it means to say 177 towns. The impact to local infrastructure, schools, roads, police, fire, etc., are all going to be strained at a cost 10 times what any unguaranteed grants would provide. The town of Milton said no, and the Attorney General quickly stepped in to file suit. It is widely speculated that the litigation was already inked, just waiting for the first town to be in non-compliance. Of course it was. Milton will have its day in court in October, so we all should be waiting to see what becomes of that before anything else is done. Once you vote yourself into this, you cannot vote yourself out. Kind of like communism. Pertinent facts to remember as a lot of town meetings are coming up. Article 89, the Home Rule Amendment, is a constitutional right in the state constitution and was adopted in November 1966 by a ballot vote of 1,186,608 to 270,087. It reaffirmed the customary and traditional liberties of the people and grants them the authority and right to self-government in local matters. The state cannot dictate, as they do not have authority. Since the state cannot mandate the proposed MBTA Community Zoning Act, the towns and cities need to approve it via their electoral process. Once a town or city approves this change and hands over authority to the state, it will be nearly impossible to get the authority back from the state. The MBTA rezoning law was originally passed in 2021 by Charlie Baker. At the time, it consisted of 3 paragraphs buried into a 180-page bill. Since passing, the parameters have expanded to over 40 pages of rules and regulations that we have already seen change and will continue to change in the future. The initial legislation had an affordability component, which has since been removed. The current legislation does not have any language or plan to increase affordability. The city of Boston is exempt from the new state zoning laws. Massachusetts' taxpaying population has been declining in recent years. Previous requirements to pass such a law require a 2/3 majority vote, but this law was written to allow for a simple majority, which makes it easier for towns to forego their zoning rights to the state. So before I move on to their suggested questions to ask, I just want to point out a couple things that they're saying. Massachusetts taxpaying population has been declining in recent years. People either aren't paying taxes for, I'm sure, a number of reasons. Maybe they have decided that they are not being represented and they refuse to be taxed without representation. I think that's valid. Maybe they can't afford it because of the cost of living and inflation. Maybe they're moving out of the state. I was just looking up the population of Boston the other day, and all of the information I find says that the population of Boston has been at a steady decline. A steady decline. It's decreasing. How are we in a housing crisis if our population is decreasing? Weird, right? And I mean, we know that Massachusetts has brought in over 288,000 illegal immigrants in the past 3 years. So, I mean, they're not paying taxes yet, likely. So, considering the amount of people that are here and the amount of people that are paying taxes, people aren't paying taxes. The initial legislation had an affordability component, which has since been removed. Again, none of this is by accident, by chance, by coincidence, and it is not the decisions of the people that you elected. These things have been designed and put in place by the people who are running the world. Okay? So, yeah, do we protest Michelle Wu? And do we talk about Michelle Wu? And do we say shame on Wu? Yeah, because she's the person that's in the office right now. Do we talk about Lydia Edwards because she's the one gaslighting right now? Yeah. Do we shame these individuals when we see them in public? Yeah. But these are not their creative ideas. These are plans that they have been handed to. They were put in place to execute these plans, okay? And you see in here that it says it was originally passed in 2021 by Charlie Baker. Charlie Baker was a Republican. Whether you consider him a rhino or what doesn't really matter. It's just, the point is that neither party is in control over anything. The two-party system is an illusion to make you think that there's two sides. Okay. And nobody that actually is, like, people suggest that if Marty Walsh was still here, this wouldn't be happening. The fuck it would. The reason why they bring carpetbaggers and they move people around like that is so that the person who they put in place to actually do the visible destruction of the city or town or whatever has no personal ties to the place. So once they've destructed, they can move on, or they can leave, or they can go somewhere else. Like, they have no ties here. They have no reason to need to be here, want to be here, or need to come back here, right? They're typically not going to have somebody who's actually from the place destroy the place. Okay. So the people that we put in office are not the ones making the decisions. They're just the little puppets that have been put there to execute the plans. And that's why you see Democrats scapegoat Democrats, and you see them eject people from their team, or even if they just do like a small scapegoat and then bring them back, it's because these people are disposable to them. These people are puppets to them. So as soon as their people step out of line, they just replace them. We saw it happen with the Boston City Council with Ricardo Arroyo and Kendra Lara, where Michelle Wu, basically was done with the amount of embarrassment and bad headlines that those two were making for the city council. So she picked Enrique Pepin and Ben Weber to replace them. Those are her people too. And it's not about the person. These individual people are not making these decisions. Like, yeah, they're making the decision to be the puppet. At the end of the day, that like individual person is the actual person who did it. So they are responsible and they should be held accountable. But it's not their idea. It's not their plans, and it would not have been different if it were somebody else. Okay, so even when you say vote them out, like if you're not replacing them with somebody who is going to tell the truth and has proven they're going to tell the truth and has proven that they understand what's going on and that they're against these gross human rights violations, then you're doing nobody any service by helping somebody get into office who's going to play the game. This is not a game. They're playing politics with people's lives. Like, this is literal good versus evil. This is life or death situations. This is the future of freedom, the future of our country, the future of our world depends on what we are doing now. And when we work with people and put people into office, because like, you say what you want to say. I know, yes, that the 2020 election, the national election, was stolen. Okay. I know that. And I agree. And like, I watched things happen on video with my own eyes. Like, you can't tell me any different about what happened in 2020. But on the local level, as hyper local as you could possibly get, it is extremely hard for them to mess with the elections, especially if we have honest, courageous people working in every area to make sure that nothing crazy is happening with the local elections. That's how it's structured. That's how it works. That's how you can take back or take over or manipulate or whatever, is by working as hyper local as you possibly can. So, like, I hope that people watching this video are being involved this year and going to continue to be involved, whether you're running for office now or not. I hope that you're involved, and I hope that you're working on a local level, and I hope that you're not, if you are involved, I hope that you're not traveling hours and hours away to be involved. I hope that you're working locally. It starts locally. We watched a bunch of elections be won a few weeks ago in New Hampshire because they started doing real grassroots work like this, and they started organizing a separate from the parties and separate from the establishment, and they started doing things on their own in their own way, and they're winning. And hopefully that momentum keeps going and keeps building. But that's what you have to do. You have to work local. And I don't even remember where I was going with this, honestly, but I was trying to make points about the points made on this website. And I think that was all. Is that it doesn't matter who's in office. These things are going to happen anyway, right? So moving on to the questions. Oh, hold on. Let me share my screen. Moving on to the questions to consider in the areas of concern. Why is the city of Boston exempt from the state mandate? I think that Boston is exempt because we basically already are living in it. So, I mean, every single area of our city is exactly what this act entails. So, I don't know why they need to say that we're exempt, because basically they don't need to put an act in place because they've already done all the damage. I guess. So that would be my answer. With a large portion of the population now working remote, ridership is at an all-time low on the MBTA. What a great way to increase ridership. Approximately 20% of the office space downtown Boston is vacant. Why is that space not being considered? Okay, I don't like that point because, it already is anyway. But given Massachusetts' population has been declining, how does the state have a housing crisis? If there truly is a housing crisis, what is causing it? And where are the people coming from? Is there really a housing crisis or an affordability crisis? If it is an affordability issue, why has the affordability provision been removed from the legislation? This is another thing that we talk about many different times in different ways, is what does affordable actually mean when that word is used by the government? It doesn't really have any meaning. I would say that it means government subsidy, because if you look at these things that they have labeled affordable units, they are subsidized. They are income based, income restricted. You can only get in them if you have a certain income. So it's a subsidy. If your income changes, your rent will too. And it's not giving an independent person a way to be able to afford their rent. It is making an independent person dependent on government. Why is only half the state required to solve the housing crisis? I don't like questions that leave room for more enforcement. I don't like saying things like this. I don't like, posing questions like why is the city of Boston exempt? Or say with a large portion of the population now working remote, ridership is at an all-time low. Okay, but then they're going to say, well, when they're not working remote, or if we end all of these remote positions or whatever, then the situation will change. I don't like questions that are posed with variables like that, where if the government just tweaks the situation, then your question is moot, basically. It's like a waste of a question. So why is only half the state required to solve the housing crisis? So it's basically like saying that you're going to be okay with it if they make the whole state required to help to implement this act. It's just like a pointless question, I feel like. If this zoning law is passed, are you comfortable with your neighborhood and or neighbors selling their homes and a developer building a 4+ unit multifamily building on those plots of land? Which the first time I read this, I actually had to laugh at 4+ unit multifamily building, because like I feel like whoever wrote this must live in a suburb somewhere, because I mean, in Boston, they don't even allow new developments that small. It's like you have to have like 12 units minimum. And at this point, they're denying buildings with 12 units. It's like at this point, I think you have to like go well over 20 or 30 units to even be able to submit a proposal. So I chuckled when I saw 4+. In some towns, it can be as high as 50 units. And I mean, what are we talking? Oh, towns? Is it because it's a town? I don't know, because towns are like as big as cities, and so I don't know where these tiny little numbers are coming from. But I mean, we have buildings going up with hundreds of units. Like literally every week I'm seeing a building that was not there the week before. The rate at which these buildings are popping up everywhere is insane. And I feel like the smallest ones have like 150 to 200 units. So I don't know where these tiny little numbers are coming from. Abiding by this proposed zoning requirement gives up your towns and cities' zoning rights and could cost you and your family a tremendous amount of money in regards to lowering your property value and increasing your taxes. And we've already heard Wu and Haley talking about increasing property taxes. And business taxes, right? Because that's the thing. The agenda is to completely eliminate, squeeze, and push out small landlords and small businesses, right? But they have ways of gaslighting for that too, because they have like we just saw like last week, celebration of Michelle Wu, congratulating 37 small businesses that the city gave grants to get started or whatever, that just opened or something or other. And it's like, again, this is a government subsidy. This is you getting into an agreement with the government and the government using taxpayer money to start your small business. But there's strings attached somewhere. If they gave you money for it, you have to be following some rules somewhere, And it's the same thing with the government helping people with home ownership. There's strings attached, So it's like they're taking it away from us with one hand. They're taking it away from the people who are independent from government and giving it to the people who are dependent on government, or who will be dependent on government now that they have entered into this agreement, right? So it's, again, another major psyop. It's just like Michelle Wu with one hand is taking away resources from the people of Roxbury, as Mara Healy, but taking away things and resources from the people of Boston to give to the illegal immigrants. And then with the other hand, they're shoving reparations in your face so that you can't be too mad at them about the illegal immigrants, because over here, they're going to be giving you some money. So it's the same thing. Everywhere they're giving you something, they're taking it away from somewhere else to basically to even the pot, right? Because we're moving towards socialism and communism where everybody is going to be equally poor, right? It's not just that everybody's going to be equal. Everybody's going to be equally poor. And then, those special people, elites, the people who executed the plans, the people who played the games, the people who did all the work will be, the rich controllers. I mean, they'll still be puppets. So I don't, it's not gonna, they're not gonna have like any more control over anything than we are, but they'll just be, the happy ones, the well-paid ones, right? And there's no there we're close to having absolutely zero middle class, and we'll all be peasants. Yeah, so everywhere that they give, that they're giving something, they're taking it away, and forcing us all into being dependent on the government. Okay, last part. State pressure and tactics to force compliance. The state is threatening to withhold grant money for towns that do not abide by the new mandate, which we are seeing right now play out in Milton. Um, Originally, only grant money was to be withheld until the town of Milton voted no, and the attorney general filed an unconstitutional lawsuit to force them into compliance, thus sending the message to any other town who does not toe the line that the state will come after you. The state cannot force zoning. They are overstepping their authority. The town of Milton's case is before the Mass Supreme Court in October. If your town votes in favor of adopting this before this case is heard, you have to be compliant with the zoning. Vote no and see what happens. Do you know how much your town gets in grant money? Most towns and cities are being disingenuous on how much grant money you will lose. The town of Hamilton has received $25,000 in total in the last couple of years. The city of Woburn does not get any grant money. Even if your town is awarded, remember, it's not guaranteed, millions of dollars of grant money. When the population of your town or city dramatically increases due to this measure, what will it cost to add additional police, firefighters, schools, public works, and other services? Who is going to pay for these additional services? What will these new costs do in excess of any potential grant money? The state of Massachusetts, as of January 2024, had a $1 billion deficit. With such a large deficit, what is the likelihood that the grants will eventually have to be minimized or cut back to offset the deficit? And then there's a list right here that says how to get involved and take action. Petition your town residents to vote against the MBTA Community Zoning Act. Go to town meeting or city council meeting. And petition your city council, because typically members of the public aren't able to be heard or to speak on record in city council meetings, or at least in Boston. I don't know if that's the case everywhere else. Join the lawsuit with attorney Michael Walsh. They're currently looking for an additional 30 to 40 participants in order to create a class action lawsuit, which most people know how I feel about that. I don't believe that we're going to win in court. The courts are corrupt because the corrupt people operate the courts. So I don't believe that this fight is going to be won in court. So that's just me. Contact the attorney. Class action lawsuits are protected as part of protected speech, First Amendment rights, as well as anti-SLAPP, which is strategic lawsuit against public participation. Yeah, I don't really go into all of that because the Constitution protects us from everything. So any legislation made past that really is just like invalid and fuckery. So this website is rescueouramericanrepublic.substack.com. So this is a Substack. And here, I can share this in the comments. So you can go see it if you'd like. Again, I hope that this doesn't get this site taken down or shadow banned or anything like that. But Yeah. So the people of Winthrop, I hope that they continue to organize and fight. Um, I hope that something in person does take place. And um, I mean, if you're in Winthrop and you're watching this and you're not sure what to do, reach out to me. Let's have a conversation about it. We were effective in embarrassing Michelle Wu in Boston when she was threatening the jobs of thousands of city workers with the vaccine mandates. And so effective that the Boston City Council passed a city ordinance to ban our small group of people from protesting in front of her house. Um, some of us have been arrested for peaceful protesting, which is an extreme First Amendment violation. And a few of us are still in court 2 years later. Um, so, that's unfortunately sometimes things like that happen with people who are effective. They will go to great lengths to silence you. But if you understand why you're doing the work that you're doing and why you're fighting, then you understand that sometimes you have to take a risk to be able to raise public awareness, or at least, I don't know. I don't know. um, I have kids, so I want them to have some some type of freedom that we were all lied to about, I guess. I don't want to leave this fight to them, so I'm going to do everything that I can to try to handle things before they become adults and they have to handle something. Um, hold on. Wait, hold on one second. I'm being called. Please. I don't know. My kids don't like to get along when I try to do these things. um okay. So wasn't it any elected official's house in Boston? So there's buffer zones all throughout Boston. I think that this question is like sarcastic, just to get me to say the point that needs to be said, that um the city ordinance was written by Michelle Wu, proposed to the city council by Michelle Wu, to get rid of us protesters from in front of her house. We weren't there every day, but we did go there quite a few times in the matter of like 4 to 6 months in 2022. And so she proposed this ordinance, and the city council passed the ordinance. The ordinance is supposed to um, apply to any targeted residents in the city of Boston. So if you are targeting a specific person that lives in the building that you're protesting, um, this ordinance is supposed to apply to you. It is a civil violation, so it's not a criminal offense. You're not supposed to be able to be arrested for violating this ordinance. It is a monetary fine. So for the first offense, you're supposed to get a $50 fine. For the second, it's I want to say $150 fine, and then for the third and subsequent, a $300 fine. So what's crazy about that is like, why create this whole fine structure if you're not ever going to fine anybody? Nobody ever got a fine for this ordinance. They just started arresting us and charging us with disturbing the peace. So they use disturbing the peace and disorderly charges to arrest people when they're not committing a crime, basically, because disturbing the peace or disorderly, those are crimes. So when you're not actually committing a crime, they have this like golden ticket, disturbing the peace charge to charge you with, so that they can justify arresting you, right? The thing is that there's already case law, and it's been proven over and over again that, and decided over and over again, that you cannot be charged with disturbing the peace while engaging in First Amendment protected activity like a peaceful assembly, which is what we were doing. But they're doing it anyway. So basically, like, they're just going to keep doing it until some corrupt judge decides that we're not allowed the First Amendment anymore, basically. That's what's going to happen. We won't be allowed to have public demonstrations anymore. And we will not be able to utilize protesting or rallying in a way to educate the public about what's really going on. So yeah, we, after the ordinance passed, we did test it to see if it would be enforced in front of any other public officials' homes other than Michelle Wu, because this was a self-serving ordinance that was only passed for her benefit. We went to Michael Flaherty's house. We went to Ed Flynn's house. Those are both Boston City councilors. We went to Margaret Cook's house, who was, I want to say, the Boston Public Health commissioner. Correct me if I'm wrong. Or the Department of, I don't know. Somebody that works in the public health department somewhere and lives in Boston. And police did come to, police usually show up at protests just to like babysit, pretty much. So police did come to all of those other peaceful assemblies, but they did not mention or attempt to enforce the picketing ordinance, because the picketing ordinance is the policy for the mayor's house, and it is only to be applied at the mayor's house, because that's what happened when you have a dictator running your city. They get special protection from the public. Yeah, so we tested it out. It wasn't enforced anywhere but at her house. And when they realized that a fine was not going to deter us, they decided not even to do the fine, and they just arrested us and charged us with disturbing the peace. And that's what happened. And thank you to Lydia Edwards for being one of the counselors who voted to pass that ordinance. Lori says you can't speak at city councilor meetings in Brockton. No surprise there. Elected officials and public officials do what they want, no matter where you are. So there's that. Spot on. Got to start by winning local. Organizing local, because the objective of a political campaign doesn't always have to be to win. You could run a political campaign just to gain some traction for your message and to get it out there. And people also run once to get prepared to run and win the next time. So winning doesn't always have to be the ultimate goal of a campaign. I wish that more people would understand that and apply that when thinking about running campaigns. I'm just looking at the comments. I'm going to get off here in a minute. I'm just going to address any comments that I think need to be addressed. Margaret Cook was the Department of Public Health Commissioner. Yeah. Yeah, so if there's anything that you think I should add or any questions you have about the MBTA's Communities Act that I didn't cover, or how to fight it, or anything that you think that I didn't mention, just let me know in the comments. I think I'm seeing comments from YouTube and Facebook. And it says that I'm seeing all comments. So hopefully that's true, because I'm technically streaming on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different platforms right now. So, and I'm seeing comments from like 3 people with over 100 viewers. So, they're hating, but they're watching. Hopefully they're learning. Hopefully that your hate for me or your distaste or dislike for me isn't going to deter you from heeding the things that I'm saying and taking action in your community against the dictatorship that we're experiencing. But I'm not seeing anybody add anything in the comments. So thank you, Michelle and Mary and Lori and John, for all interacting. The commercial office space was fully occupied before Wu shut down the city of Boston during the pandemic. Wu didn't shut it down. Who was the mayor then? Marty Walsh shut down the city of Boston, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's all a show. It's a show. Yeah, so I mean, if there's any takeaways from this live stream, I hope that people are seeing what's happening. I hope that you're paying attention in your own. I hate using the word community, but like it's used so much in the conversations that it just happens sometimes. Hopefully you're taking action in your own communities. Hopefully, people will start to have their own meetings separate from the organizations in place, separate from the government. Start your own newsletter, start your own YouTube channel, start your own, whatever you can to try to get the information out to the people in your area. We don't know if we're going to wake up tomorrow and not have the internet anymore. Like, do you know the people that live on your street? Go meet them, please. I mean, if it makes you feel more comfortable, go look at the voter rolls at your city or town hall. Find out who on your street is not a Democrat, I guess. I don't know. Find out who on your street is registered to the party of your choice and go knock on their door and meet them. Find out where there's local civic association meetings or neighborhood association meetings or even government meetings. Go to those meetings, to meet other people and then break off and start your own meeting. You know what I mean? Like, utilize the meetings to network with the people. Find out who has the same, who is like-minded, who understands what's going on, who sees that there's a problem, who is stepping up and speaking up against these things that are happening. Go do it locally. We are only going to win if we are organizing hyper locally, okay? Go to the meetings that are happening in your area. I guarantee you there are meetings happening in your area. They may be Democratic or they may be Republican. They may be something that you disagree with, but that doesn't mean that you can't go there and find somebody in the audience or in the crowd who agrees with you on something and will work with you. Okay? Go to the meetings, show up to public events, go to farmers markets, anything where the people in your community will be present. Okay? Go stand out in front of the grocery store with a sign. There's so many ways to meet other like-minded people in your area. Again, reach out to me if you need help. Find people in your area, talk to them, start your own meetings, start your own newsletter. We cannot depend on the internet. The internet is great for making videos and posting videos and spreading the word via social media and hoping that somebody somewhere is making a viral video that's going to just hit, but we can't use the internet as our only avenue for building a movement. We can't. We have to be in person. We have to be talking to people face to face. They can disconnect us from the internet whenever they feel like it. Okay? We don't want to be dependent on the internet, just like we don't want to be dependent on the government. The internet is the government. Like, we need to be doing things in person, showing up to meetings, talking to people, making our own meetings, making our own newsletters. I will repeat that over and over and over. I can't stress it enough. Start your own meeting, start your own newsletter. Okay? Get 5 people in your area to distribute the newsletter. Make it a weekly or bi-weekly or even monthly. Get a handful of people and just leave it on people's doorsteps. Don't go in their mailbox. That's a federal offense. Leave it on people's doorsteps. Leave stacks of it in the convenience stores or bodegas or churches or whatever. Speak at your church, okay? Like, this is a war between good and evil, okay? And I don't go to church, and I don't really believe in following religious leaders and stuff like that. But you can go to church. Maybe you can speak at a church. Maybe you can hand out flyers or newsletters at a church and find people who have an understanding of the situation that we're in right now. Okay? Because it is very much good versus evil, this situation that we're in. And, I hope that Winthrop stands strong. I hope that there is actually somebody running against Lydia Edwards. So I don't have any information on her. But I did see in some of the comments on that Winthrop group that there is somebody running against her. So maybe they can vote her out. I don't know, because of the bank account that she has, or even if they do vote her out, she'll probably move up into a bigger position of power. But I hope that the people of Winthrop stay strong and follow the example of Milton. And I hope that other towns and cities have the news of Milton and Winthrop and they fight back too. And yeah, I mean, if I see any updates, I'll try to come on and update. And like I said, I try to work hyper local and just talk about Boston stuff, but this is a Boston. I mean, Winthrop is right next to Boston for one. And if we can Lydia Edwards is also a senator of Boston, so she represents the East Boston and Revere and Winthrop. So it actually does affect Boston because that's their rep too. And another thing about that too is that when somebody's a legislator, they legislate for the whole state. So it really like doesn't matter what district they're in or who gets to vote for them. Like they have an effect on what happens in the entire state. So everybody has a say in anything that an elected official does, and don't let anybody tell you any different because you don't live in their district. But you should still work hyper local anyway. But I mean, in my opinion, but yeah, I think that's it. There's no more comments coming in. I think I said everything that I needed to say, and you can help me out with what I'm doing in Boston by going to boston2boston.com. That's TO, the word to boston2boston.com. Sign up for emails, sign up to be a citizen reporter, because I need people in each neighborhood of Boston to report to me what to put in the newsletter about what's going on in their neighborhood, after they've attended meetings or talked to their community or whatever. And I also need people to be newsletter distributors, to pass out the newsletter, to put it up in windows. I need location spaces for in-person meetings. And if you have a space that you know that we can use for in-person meetings, we don't have any money. I don't have any money. So getting spaces to use has been difficult, and I really don't have a great relationship with Boston Public Libraries, so I'm not trying to go to the libraries. So that's that. And if you, for some ridiculously justifiable reason, cannot participate or help in person or show up or do any of the above, then please contribute financially. It does cost money to print newsletters. It does cost money to run a website and run streaming services, and make signs for public demonstrations. All of these things cost money, and if you can contribute financially, you can also do that at boston2boston.com, and it is greatly appreciated. And it is not for me, it is for all of us. And yeah, I think that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Please share the video, take clips of it, make your own video to talk about it. Like, do like whatever you feel inclined to do. Please don't just watch the video and say that sucks for Winthrop and forget about it. Talk about it, share it, make your own video, do your own thing in your own neighborhood or community, and step up, because we're headed for a really dark place, and we really need a lot more participation and pushback on this tyrannical government. So thank you for watching, and I will see you when I see you.